Hello and welcome to Decoding Risk, where we give you expert insights on trending topics in the insurance industry. I'm your host, Edward Pronley, one of the marketing content managers here at Fusable. And today joining us for our very first episode is Jasmine Slaughter. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks, Edward. I'm excited to be here for the inaugural episode.
And we're excited to have you here. To get us started, would you mind giving us a little bit of your background in the insurance industry?
Yeah, so I'm Jasmine Slaughter. I'm the senior director over in our risk vertical at Fusable, and I bring with me a diverse background within the insurance industry. I started my career at Willis Towers Watson as a complex casualty broker where I served multinational clients. And then after doing that for a few years, I wanted a different perspective, a different challenge. So I started managing risk over at a large international hotel chain, and then even transitioned even further to managing risk for an energy company. And there I managed their renewable assets, transmission, distribution, and fleet. So if I hadn't had enough experience already, I decided I wanted another challenge. So I went to Wharton to get my MBA. And then immediately after that, I started working in McKinsey's insurance practice, where I serve clients in all sorts of capacities in the insurance industry. So I'd say my focus in the insurance industry has been broad, but I have gone narrow in places and have a pretty good micro and macro view of the industry.
Yeah, I'd say, and diverse background, definitely not an overstatement. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you bringing your expertise to today's topic. And on the topic of today's topic, we are talking about the agents and brokers, the future of B2B insurance. So kind of a breakdown is large insurance brokers have been acquiring a lot of independent insurance agencies. And what you and I are kind of looking at today is why this is going on and why we should care about it. So what's your take on kind of this evolution of the insurance industry with so many brokers consolidating?
I'd say this trend has been going on for several years, but it's been going on longer. When I started at Willis Towers Watson, first of all, it was just Willis. There was no Towers Watson. So that tells you that there was an acquisition. But we had already just acquired a smaller company called HRH. So, from when I started my career over 10 years ago to today, it's just been growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't see it stopping until, there's just a ton of big brokers everywhere. But I think it's driven by a few things, right? Mm-hmm. There's always this desire in business for growth and scale. Large brokers want to be able to expand their service offerings. They want to be able to expand their reach and then access a larger client base. And, that's a pretty good reason for brokers to want to continue to acquire smaller brokers. And then a second reason I think is driven mainly by private equity. The market is highly competitive. So there's a large amount of private equity interest, right? And then the agent and broker market, it's insurance, especially insurance brokerage, is seen as a stable cash generating business, and it has recurring revenue streams. And that is exactly what PE firms are attracted to. When you look at something like an insurance company, right, that has loss ratios and maybe unprofitable books of business, that might not look as interesting to a PE firm. But when you look at brokers, their revenue streams are very stable. It's commission based, and it's basically a necessity in the entire insurance ecosystem. And I'd say another reason is that the market is highly competitive. And technology is playing an ever-increasing role in that. So when you think about small brokers being able to compete with larger brokers, tech and digital enablement is one of the ways that they can do it, but sometimes they don't have the investment. And a larger broker coming in and being able to invest in something like that is a boon to them. Yeah. So that's my perspective. We'll see if I'm eating my words in a few years, but I don't think it's going to change.
All right, so you don't think it's going to change. There are clearly a number of factors that are contributing to this. I mean, are these factors, have they always been around? Is this kind of a newer problem that we're experiencing, or have we been seeing kind of like a growth to this?
I would say one thing or one aspect of this that is increasing the growth is the idea of private equity, right? We hear about private equity just acquiring firms all the time. So as long as that private equity growth is happening, I think we'll see a rapid acceleration, mergers and acquisitions within the space.
So why do we care about this kind of trend or evolution? Why does this matter to the industry?
Yeah, from Fusable's perspective, this is very important, right? Because as brokers consolidate, the volume and complexity of the data that they're managing increases, right? So that means there's an increased need to be able to parse through that data, to be able to analyze that data, and have robust data management and analytic solutions. And larger companies, like the results of the acquisition, they have more extensive data sets, and they can use that to leverage deeper insights about their clients, help them build better tools and be a better client partner to their clients. And for a company like Fusable, it presents a very unique opportunity. One of our products, Cab, is deeply ingrained in the commercial auto trucking space, and a number of insurance companies, brokers, and motor carriers use our product. So having that sense of continuity across the different organizations will make at least one part of the transition or one part of that acquisition a lot easier, and allow companies to just turn on a switch, and now they have hundreds, thousands of data points to analyze and use as they're managing risk. And I'll also say that as the market consolidates, the competitive landscape changes, right? So smaller brokers might feel the pressure to compete with those larger brokers and provide the same level of sophisticated data and analytics that the larger brokers do. This democratization of data will help them compete and at least be able to say that we have the same level of capabilities that the larger brokers do. Don't buy us just yet. We're doing fine on our own. And then I'd say the increased focus on technology is something that's always been there since the invention of the steam engine.
Yeah.
We're always there's always going to be this focus on tech. But I think we're in this next wave with AI, large language models, and being able to adapt to that very quickly will allow small brokers, large brokers, both to be able to serve their clients effectively. And we want to be a partner for those folks as they enter this new phase of data and analytics.
Yeah, of course. And so kind of based on what I'm hearing from you is that we have these independent agencies that are, of course, being acquired, and that is going to kind of change the landscape of this industry, or at least it might. It has the potential to do that. So how can these independent agencies survive during this trend of consolidation?
Yeah, I think there would be reason for folks to be nervous or independent agents to be nervous about this, but there are a ton of different ways that independent agents can survive, right? So when you think about the commercial trucking auto sector, for instance, it's deeply influenced by the broader changes in shipping and online shopping and logistics, right? If you think about, 15 years ago, the idea of getting a package within a day or two of ordering it was not unheard of, but not very common. But now we've come to expect that. So I think there's always going to be shippers who are interested and truckers who are interested in entering this market. And that leaves a big space for these small independent operators, right? And those independent operators might have a natural pairing with the independent brokers, and they can provide them with that white glove or very personalized service that a small independent agent might need. So I honestly, I didn't realize how much I valued that personalized service until I got a new doctor who calls me after every visit to check in to see if I have any questions or talk through anything. I have a clean bill of health, but even the idea that someone would want to do that or someone could do that makes me feel like it creates sticking power. I don't want to leave this doctor ever if I have the opportunity, right? And I think the same can be said for independent agents and brokers. If they're able to offer that white glove, very personalized service, that's a way that they can carve out their niche and have some staying power. And I've said it before many times already, Edward, but investing in technology is another critical area. By adopting advanced analytics and tools, they can better understand the risk profiles of their clients. And they can use tools like we already have, like the basic scores within CAB. They can use that to optimize their risk management. And they can utilize the data we provide to devise safety strategies and streamline claims processes. This not only improves efficiency, but it also improves client satisfaction. For instance, predictive analytics can help agencies anticipate potential risks and offer proactive advice before these risks happen, or like, crashes or accidents or what have you. And then I'd also add that understanding the nuances of the commercial trucking market, such as the impact of new regulations or the advent of autonomous vehicle tech, can help give independent agents that competitive edge. And by staying informed and utilizing these insights, agents can position themselves as thought leaders or trusted advisors in the industry, which can be a significant differentiator in a market where personalized service and specialized knowledge is very valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I have found, a couple of articles that have been talking about this subject that often bring up the customer relationships that these independent agencies provide, especially compared to maybe some larger brokers. So one article, for instance, which I'll link in the notes of the show from Insurance Journal, talks about how independent agencies aren't going anywhere and don't really have to worry because they provide a human touch to the industry that we need. Do you think that will always be the case? Is that human touch really kind of, the independent agencies' saving grace?
I think there's a lot of truth to that perspective. Independent agents can provide a very crucial role in providing personalized human-centered service. And that's very critical when you think about complex insurance needs in commercial trucking.
Yeah.
The commercial trucking industry itself is based on trust. So why wouldn't every relationship that a particular client had be based on trust?
Mm-hmm.
And that can never be fully replicated by technology, or maybe I'm old school in thinking that, who knows, my best friend might be AI in 20 years. But yeah, I think that today, there's no replacement for it. But I do think it's important to acknowledge the rapid advancements in technology and the changing consumer expectations. While they might not disappear, these independent agents, the need to integrate digital tools and have access to data and analytics is very crucial. And I would be remiss if I said all they needed is good customer service. There's a balance or a hybrid approach that needs to be taken to make sure they don't disappear and make sure they're meeting the needs of their clients.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. They need that combination. It's going to help them survive even more than just the kind of personal touch can provide. And speaking on the client side of things, will this trend have an impact on policyholders?
Yeah, for sure. The consolidation trend in the agent and broker industry is definitely going to have an impact on motor carriers. And I think there's going to be positives and negatives to both. On the positive side, large brokers, they offer more comprehensive services. They can offer broader coverage options and better pricing because they have better negotiating power with insurers. They might also invest in advanced technology or advanced analytics and provide very thorough risk assessments and tailored insurance solutions to clients. And I think as a sophisticated motor carrier, you want a sophisticated insurance broker.
Yeah.
However, right, there's potential downsides as well. If you are maybe a smaller motor carrier or trucker who's used to that personalized service and your broker is a part of an acquisition, you might feel that there's a shift away from personalized service. You might not talk to the person you've talked to for the past 10 years. Larger firms, by necessity, typically focus on efficiency and process standardization. And I think that could lead to a less customized approach. And for some policyholders, for some motor carriers, that could mean they feel like there's less flexibility to meet their needs. I think large brokers will also have a tendency to follow the dollars, right? So they're going to follow their biggest clients. And smaller motor carriers, policyholders might find it hard to get that same level of attention and service.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is where independent agents can still play a critical role. They'll provide that human-centered approach, and they can also offer that specialized knowledge that they have in relationship with their clients.
But for the motor carriers that might be feeling ignored by some of the larger brokers, how can they kind of get ahead of this evolution or protect themselves from that experience?
I'd say there's a number of things that motor carriers can do. And, this might be me preaching to the choir. Maybe folks already know this, but I'll enumerate them either way. I think the first thing they should do is prioritize building strong long-term relationships with their brokers by maintaining open communication and being transparent about what their needs and wants are. That helps their brokers know how to go out into the market and serve them and advocate on their behalf for any changes or transitions. I'd say secondly, motor carriers should also be investing in technology, right? So there are things like telematics, safety management systems, and other data-driven tools that motor carriers can use to help get ahead of things and present a strong risk profile to insurers and brokers. And it will allow them and their broker to have the opportunity to negotiate better terms as they go into renewals, as they look to switch carriers. And I would say we actually at Fusable have a tool for motor carriers to use. Our MC Advantage program offers just that. It allows motor carriers to avoid legal nightmares. It allows them to get ahead of rising insurance costs and allows them to manage rates. So there are data and tools available to motor carriers to use so that they have an informed view of how they should be navigating the whole insurance landscape. And I'd say the second thing is diversifying their broker relationships. I know this is kind of going back on what I said before. Being able to have a significant relationship with multiple brokers can often be a good thing for motor carriers. I saw it a lot when I worked at Willis. We'd have a really big client, but we only served one part of their business. Maybe we wrote their liability, and then they had another broker who was writing their property. And I think depending on the type of motor carrier you are, you can do that, right? Broker's honest, and allows you to be able to test who's providing the right level of service for you and who are you happy with, so you can get a sense for what you like.
Yeah.
And then I'd also say just staying on top of industry trends, right? I think that's key for any person in any industry, but engaging in professional networks like the AMC IEF or the ATA are all helpful things that motor carriers can do to stay on top of any major shifts in the industry.
So I'm kind of sensing a theme just based on some of the answers to these questions so far. Basically, relationships and new technology are going to be two huge factors in this continued evolution of the industry. Would you say that that's correct in that assumption?
Yeah, I have a feeling that I'm sounding like a broken record. Insurance is a very relationship-focused business, and it's also a very tech-driven business. So to be able to marry the two effectively just allows for the best outcome for all of the parties involved.
Yeah. And speaking of, I think the last perspective we need to talk about today is the insurer's perspective on this. We've talked about the brokers, we've talked about the policyholders. How, if they are at all, how are insurers kind of planning on working with these larger brokers that are continuously consolidating?
Yeah. As the industry consolidates, it presents some opportunities and challenges for insurers, right? Because insurers are looking to collaborate with large brokers, right? Because they want to optimize efficiency, maybe in the submission process, or expand their market reach to get better risks. And larger brokers can do that, right? Because they offer more sophisticated data and analytics capabilities. And insurers can always use that to leverage to better understand risk. And it would also allow them to maybe tailor insurance products or streamline the underwriting process. I think there's a host of things that can be done from the insurer's perspective to manage this transition, this ongoing transition in the industry. And then I think these partnerships will also allow insurers to access a broader and more diverse customer base. There's these new brokers going to offer access to brokers that they had never written before because they were working with brokers who never worked with, of some random insurance company, and now they can. And as they do that, my hope would be that they could align their strategies and develop some innovative solutions to address emerging risks in the industry, like don't know, autonomous vehicles or, meet customer needs more effectively. And I think there's going to be a rapid acceleration of tech and innovation in the industry. So the more able insurers and insurance brokers are to collaborate, then the better off the whole industry will be.
Well, that's good to hear, especially because a lot of the stuff that I feel like you were talking about kind of lends to this idea that maybe brokers are gaining power in a way, especially these larger brokers. Is that going to
Yeah.
shift the relationship and the negotiating power they have with insurers moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great point. Most likely, yes. That's a short answer. As brokers get larger and gain more market share, their negotiating power increases, just like you just said, Edward. And that could mean better terms for their clients, could mean higher commissions for the agents and brokers, could also mean, just overall favorable conditions, a more friendly environment for specific brokers. And my thought is this could lead to maybe more strategic partnerships where insurers and brokers are working closely together to develop new products. What those products might be, we'll have to wait and see if that's something that happens. However, it could also mean that insurers have less leverage in negotiations, especially when dealing with a very dominant broker who represents a large portion of their book. So for insurers, their key will be focusing on building strong, collaborative relationships with their brokers, finding ways to align their goals together, right? So if the broker is doing well, then the insurance company is doing well. And they can do that by leveraging data and insights. And that would ultimately enhance the underwriting accuracy of the policies that they're writing and product development. And I'd say on the flip side, smaller brokers could find themselves at a disadvantage, potentially leading to a more concentrated market where the larger players are really wielding significant influence over the entire ecosystem.
So I just have kind of one last question for you today, and we've touched on it a little bit with some of these answers, but how do you think technology will impact or enable this transition in the B2B insurance market, and what tools or services do you think will be most utilized in the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, like I've been saying, technology is going to be a key enabler. I'd say advanced analytics is one thing that will be very important, AI, and then digital platforms. They are already driving efficiencies and creating new opportunities for both insurers and brokers and motor carriers. And these tools will hopefully allow for better risk assessment, allow for more streamlined operations across the entire ecosystem, and then more personalized client service, which is very essential to broker as they continue to grow and become more complex. I'd say a couple of things that would be a couple of tools that would be very useful would be anything that offers real-time data integration, like I mentioned before, telematics. Predictive analytics, AI models, and automation are probably the three things that I think are really going to signal growth and just overall advancement in the industry. Any platform that can facilitate seamless communication between all three of the players in this ecosystem will likely come out on top and enhance customer engagement. So technology will be very critical. I'd say Fusable, we are going to be at the forefront of this enablement. We already are data providers for all kinds of industries across the insurance ecosystem and other areas as well. In our solutions, they empower both large and small companies, large and small brokers to harness the power of data and analytics and serve as very vital inputs into how companies do business. So we are planning on continuing to provide these tools and insights and hopefully partnering with the entire industry as we move forward.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for joining us today. Summarizing what we've discussed here, it sounds like the insurance industry is in the process of a transition with so much broker consolidation, and it's going to affect the policyholders, it's going to affect the insurers, it's going to affect independent, smaller broker agencies. And based on what you've said, it kind of sounds like technology and relationships are going to be some of the two biggest factors on how we can survive this transition as an industry. Would that be?
Yeah,
Would that be a
That's
decent way of summarizing that?
that's a great summary, Edward. I'd say you hit the nail on the head. Technology, relationships go hand in hand, and that's going to be the key.
Well, thank you so much for being our first guest on Decoding Risk. And thank you, viewers and listeners, for taking the time to tune in. Please follow us wherever you listen to podcasts and check out our next episode coming next quarter. Thank you.